Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for watching, and thank you for smashing that like button on the way in, and feel free to subscribe if you want more of my content. So in this video I want to talk about just two things that came out of Amber Heard's interview, which to me, in my view, show that she was being deceptive throughout her testimony in the trial. Now, first of all, you might ask, why are we still talking about Amber Heard? Well, I personally have chosen to keep talking about this because for all those people that make allegations that are well-founded and true allegations of harm in one way or another, they deserve to be believed and they deserve to have their story heard, told, and ultimately decided as to whether it is fact or not. And in this case, the jury have come up with a verdict which said that they didn't believe these allegations and that these statements were defamatory. And so that's the reason I've chosen to look at some of the wording used to determine what might make it deceptive, in my view. And so there are two things that came out of the interview, as promised yesterday, that I would say I would analyze some of the wording and come up with reasons as to what she really meant. So the first of those is this, and it was actually captured within the text on the thumbnail to yesterday's video for the third part of the interview. That was where she said, "I shouldn't have had to have donated the money in order to be believed."
I shouldn't have to have donated it in an effort to be believed. I shouldn't have had to earmark the entirety of that.
Now remember from the trial, she said she uses the words donated as against the word pledged synonymously, meaning the same thing. Well, judging by her statement in the interview, again, I shouldn't have had to have donated the money in order to be believed. Well, if she meant those two words were synonymous and she could have replaced it with I shouldn't have had to have pledged the money in order to be believed, it's a meaningless statement, because whether she pledged it, donated it, if in her mind it was exactly the same thing, then it should have been the same thing and she should have been believed regardless. But however, the way that she's used that phrase within the interview, to me, shows that she clearly understands the difference between the two. Not that anyone, I think, really believed otherwise, but in her own words in the interview, clearly shows that she understood the difference between the two. She understood very well, in my view, that donated meant that you've handed over the money. It's no longer in your hand, it's no longer in your bank, you've given the money. That's what the word donated actually means, not pledged. Pledged is a promise. I pledge that I will do videos every day. I am promising you that I'll do videos every day. I haven't yet done videos every day in the future. I've done them every day in the past for 2 years or more now. I pledge that I will continue. Whereas I have donated to you, to YouTube, my video content for your consumption in the past 2 years. That's happened already. So the difference between those two words is quite clear. But to me, the use of this phrase by Amber Heard in this video, in this interview, shows to me on the face of it that she very well understands the difference between these two words, and that's as much as you're going to get an admission that she knew the difference between the two, and therefore she doesn't like the fact that the jury didn't believe her because she didn't use the word donate, because she didn't actually donate the money. Whereas, of course, the reality most people believe is that she didn't actually donate the money and the jury didn't buy her I used the word synonymously, meaning the same thing, argument. They didn't believe that. So that was the first thing. The second thing was in relation to the police, as to whether she followed up with the police immediately, because of course the police left because they didn't see any injuries and they didn't see anything going on, so the police left, and the argument was, well, why didn't she follow up with the police if there was something going on? And she said, and the wording that she used again is very telling, very important. The wording in the interview she used, if it was a hoax, she could have followed up with the police.
As I've testified before, and I will stand by until my dying day, I didn't want to cooperate with them. I didn't want this to be out. I didn't want this to be known. I didn't want to cooperate with them because I didn't want this to be, I didn't want to get him in trouble. If it was a hoax, I could have done that. If it was a hoax, I could have done that.
But 5 days later, you went to court and it came out.
But if you think about that logically, if it was a hoax, i.e. false, if the complaints were false, she could have followed up with the police. That doesn't make sense. If you have a false allegation, you could follow up with the police. No, because the police would come along and they would find out that there's no evidence to back it up. So that phrase in and of itself, against the argument, if they were true allegations, why didn't you follow up with the police? Well, she says, if it was a hoax, I could have followed up with the police. Again, that doesn't make sense. Again, to me, a bit of a Freudian slip. This is what happens when people give interviews like this. They say lots of things and people like me will tear them apart. As a lawyer, to say you've used these words, you know what these words mean. And whether it was deliberate or subconscious or whichever, it does portray the truth of the meaning in the mind of the beholder. So to use those words, if it were a hoax, I could have followed up with the police. So to me, it suggests, in my opinion, that she knew that it was a false allegation and that she actually couldn't follow up with the police because there was nothing to report. There was no evidence to substantiate those claims. So those were just two of the things that I thought came out of that interview. There will be more. Smash the like button and the subscribe button to receive those, and I'm going to come back with more of them probably very soon, because I'll probably think of them in about 5 minutes and record them and then upload them straight away. So in the meantime, thank you all very much for watching.